I'm taking it.
Dream matches can make for some lasting memories, but not all of them are pleasant memories. Join us now as WrestleMania looks at 15 wrestling dream matches that turned into nightmares. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos.
This isn't just a dream match for them, it's a dream match for me too.
Number 1. Goldberg vs. The Undertaker at Super Showdown 2019. Should there be a mandatory retirement age for wrestlers? That's a question fans were asking after the dream match turned disaster at 2019 Super Showdown between The Undertaker and Goldberg. Some said that Goldberg concussed himself before the match thanks to his pre-match ritual of headbutting the dressing room door, not exactly the best way to get things started in our opinion, and others mentioned that he concussed himself during the match when he accidentally hit his head in the ring post. But one thing's for sure, he apparently had little idea what was going on. The fans were equally confused as Goldberg bumbled and botched his way through the match until The Undertaker had to finish the match earlier than expected. You can even see Undertaker's reaction after the match, that he was pissed.
I don't know how many of these moments remain for The Undertaker, so savor while you can.
Number 2. Shawn Michaels vs. Hulk Hogan at SummerSlam 2005. What you gonna do when the Hulkster refuses to do the job for you? Well, in this situation, take what should have been an epic encounter of two legends and turn it into a farce, as Shawn Michaels oversold every move for Hogan, showing that Michaels' notorious bad attitude from the 90s could still raise its ugly head.
See, the Hulkster, brother, he's got a philosophy, brother. Once those people are in the building, brother, you've already got their cash in your front pocket, brother.
Wrestling lore has it that the Hulkster and HBK were supposed to work a trilogy of matches, but things got off to a bad start when Hogan asked that Michaels turn heel. Michaels complied, but when he learned Hogan was only going to work one match, and go over naturally, he went into business for himself, flipping and flopping around the ring every time Hogan put his hands on him. Number 3. AJ Styles vs. Shinsuke Nakamura at WrestleMania 34. But there was no health conditions or bad blood behind the scenes that kept this one from being a classic. AJ and Shinsuke are two pros who can work with anyone, but for whatever reason, things weren't clicking at WrestleMania 34, and while entertaining, the bout didn't live up to the fans' hope for a true WrestleMania moment. Some fans point to the match only getting 20 minutes as the reason why it didn't deliver, while others point to Nakamura's heel turn after the match as tainting it. Whatever the reason, this series started off average and only grew worse over time.
The cheap shot artist hits the WWE champion again.
Number 4. Pedro Morales vs. Bruno Sammartino at Showdown at Shea in 1972. In 1972, Pedro Morales was the WWF champion, doing the seemingly impossible by carrying on the incredible championship run started by the previous champion Bruno Sammartino. So popular was Bruno that the WWF kept its World Championship on him for over 7.5 years until he tired of the championship schedule and asked the belt to be taken off him. While Bruno was happy without the belt, fans couldn't help but wonder who was the superior wrestler, Bruno or Pedro. Both babyfaces had their fans, but how could the company book a face versus face match without either wrestler looking heelish? In a clever move, the company booked Bruno and Pedro against the villainous duo of Mr. Fuji and Professor Toru Tanaka. During the match, the heels threw salt in their opponents' eyes and Bruno and Pedro accidentally attacked each other, apparently unleashing some deep-rooted professional jealousy. This led to a match at the WWF's first Showdown at Shea card, but the match failed to live up to the hype. Other than a run-in by George the Animal Steele, the match went nowhere other than a 65-minute curfew draw, although it was announced as going 75 minutes. Number 5. D-Generation X vs. the Brothers of Destruction at Crown Jewel 2018. The WWE Super Shows in Saudi Arabia have seen some dream matches, but as we've seen, they've often turned into nightmares. Once upon a time, Shawn Michaels and Triple H vs. Kane and The Undertaker would have been a fantastic match, but Shawn Michaels had been retired since 2010 and Kane, Taker and Triple H were no longer full-time competitors. While all four men started off strong, Triple H tore a pectoral muscle during the bout, leading to a change of plans as Shawn Michaels battled on his own for much of the second half.
Michaels is recontemplating coming out of retirement.
Add in the botches including the Heartbreak Kid accidentally ripping Kane's mask and wig off, and you had a dream match that turned into an absolute dud.
I want you to think about what we witnessed tonight.
Number 6. Goldberg vs. Brock Lesnar, WrestleMania 20. Goldberg's first run in the WWE was a failure on so many levels, so it's only fitting that his last match in the WWE ended on a sour note. Both Big Bad Bill and Brock Lesnar were leaving the WWE after WrestleMania 20, and the fans knew it, booing both men as the soon-to-be ex-WWE superstars phoned it in. The only highlight of this match was seeing special referee Stone Cold Steve Austin deliver stunners to both men before celebrating with some Steve Weisers. Number 7. Roman Reigns vs. John Cena at No Mercy 2017. Fans got to see a battle of the booed boys as the WWE put the much-hated babyface John Cena against the much-hated Roman Reigns at No Mercy, with the big dog accusing Cena of walking out on the WWE like The Rock, and both men questioning whether the other lived up to their reputation.
The reason why they boo you is because they see right through you. You're a phony.
Their clash at 2017's No Mercy was big enough on paper that it could easily have anchored a Big Four event such as SummerSlam or WrestleMania, but the WWE chose September's pay-per-view instead. What could have and should have been an action-packed battle of two of the WWE's toughest men turned into a paint-by-the-numbers match that belonged more on television than a pay-per-view. Whether it was the fact the crowd didn't like either superstar or something else, this was no dream match. Number 8. Brock Lesnar vs. Triple H at SummerSlam 2012. This match was a long time coming because while Brock Lesnar and Triple H both competed in the WWE in 2002, neither man locked horns as they'd been on separate brands. Thus, when Lesnar returned to the WWE in 2012, a match against the game seemed like a dream come true. Their encounter at 2012 SummerSlam was surprisingly average, which is too bad as their following match at WrestleMania 29 was built up well and featured a stipulation that Triple H would be forced to retire should he lose.
No hold barred versus Lesnar. Triple H loses, his career's over.
In this case, the WWE spent too much time building up the rematch by having Triple H beat down in the initial match, turning the dream match into more of a poorly constructed angle to build up the sequel.
It's over now! Retire! That's it! What?
Number 9. Brock Lesnar vs. Cain Velasquez at Crown Jewel 2019. The WWE built this dream match up on short notice, having Brock Lesnar destroy Rey Mysterio's son Dominic, only for Velasquez, who had demolished Lesnar in UFC years earlier, to show up and seek revenge for Lesnar's attack on his storyline godson Dominic. Velasquez's debut match should have been an encounter for the ages, but turned into an anticlimactic afterthought when Lesnar defeated Cain in just 2 minutes, submitting him with the Chimera Lock. Cain's humiliating loss was believed to be due to him having to wrestle with an injured knee, and that it was a small miracle he was even able to work the bout. None of this mattered though, as what should have been a bout for the ages proved anything but.
To rain down punishment on Velasquez!
The way Velasquez is writhing around, there's already been some severe damage done.
Number 10. Sting vs. Triple H at WrestleMania 31. Despite many attempts to sign him after WCW's 2001 demise, Sting passed on working for the WWE, instead wrestling for TNA.
The icon Sting forever playing head games.
After years of speculation that the Stinger might finish his career in the WWE, he finally appeared in the promotion in 2014, helping to battle the forces of the Authority. This culminated in Sting's WrestleMania match against Triple H, a match which exposed his ring rust and whose only saving grace was the appearance of D-Generation X and the New World Order as they helped out Triple H and Sting respectively. Triple H's win only cemented the perception by some that Sting had only been brought back to put the WWE over WCW. Number 11. Demolition vs. the Legion of Doom in 1990. When wrestling's hottest tag team, the Road Warriors, chose Jim Crockett Promotions over the WWF, Vince McMahon unveiled a team of Axe and Smash who looked very familiar. Demolition worked hard to become a top team in their own right, so when the Road Warriors finally signed with the promotion, working as the Legion of Doom, the fans were very anxious to see the two teams tussle.
I think power-wise, they're about equal, Brain.
Regrettably, Demolition Axe was experiencing health problems around this time, which forced the WWF to add Demolition Crush, aka Bryan Adams, to fill in under the Freebird rule. When the Legion of Doom finally battled Demolition, it was in a 6-man tag on Saturday night's main event, with Hawk and Animal teaming with the Ultimate Warrior in a disappointing match.
Demolition! This weekend, our mission is to seek and destroy!
Rather than seeing two teams in their prime, the fans were stuck watching 6-man matches or an 8-man match at 1990's Survivor Series. Number 12. Shawn Michaels vs. Mr. Perfect at SummerSlam 1993. On paper, Shawn Michaels vs Mr. Perfect should have been one of the highlights of the New Generation era in WWF. In reality, the match came off as uneven and was a letdown on one of the worst SummerSlams in history. Mr. Perfect wasn't at his peak thanks to his tender back, and a count-out win for Michaels thanks to interference from bodyguard Diesel robbed the fans of seeing a true classic. Number 13, Bret Hart vs Hollywood Hulk Hogan on WCW Nitro in 1998. This match was several years in the making, as Bret Hart claims Hogan was supposed to drop the WWF Championship to him in '93, only for Hart to get the "I don't think so, brother" treatment. Fast forward to 28 September 1998, and WCW decided to match Hogan against Hart in a true clash of the titans. In a classic example of WCW's new policy of leaving money on the table, WCW aired the Dream Match on television rather than pay-per-view, and in hindsight maybe it's better they did, as this one was a true dud.
Boy, Hogan's the master, isn't he? And that's what we talked about earlier.
The bout saw Hart injured in the match and replaced by Hogan's rival Sting, only for Hart to return and turn heel. Is there any wonder why Hart hated his run in WCW? Number 14, Jeff Hardy vs Sting at Victory Road 2011. The charismatic enigma versus the man called Sting. How could this match possibly go wrong even in TNA? In this case, everything went wrong thanks to Jeff Hardy showing up in no condition to perform.
Moment of truth has arrived. No longer the chance for Jeff Hardy to make excuses.
Now, we've told the story several times in videos such as wrestling's worst main events, so for brevity's sake we'll say Jeff was high as a kite and it was a miracle he made it to the ring. Sting kept Jeff from hurting himself while Eric Bischoff tried to stall and figure out a way of the debacle he found himself in. The match was gone in 90 seconds, but Hardy was long gone before. Rather than issue refunds to the fans who paid for this turkey of a main event, TNA issued credits for TNA's on-demand streaming service. Talk about adding insult to injury. At number 15, Hollywood Hulk Hogan vs Sting at Starrcade 1997. The showdown fans had been waiting for over a year had happened, and it was only fitting that it would be held at WCW's flagship pay-per-view Starrcade. Hollywood Hulk Hogan had led the New World Order to victory after victory over the forces of WCW, but now Sting was standing tall for WCW and prepared to issue Hogan's first crushing defeat. The match had lots of hype, but it didn't live up to the hype for several reasons. The first was that Sting looked awful, this being because Sting had been out of action since '96. Even worse, Hulk Hogan was up to his usual political power plays, and unbeknownst to Sting, he had made sure he'd look good while dropping the belt to him. The match called for sketchy referee Nick Patrick to make a lightning fast count when Hogan pinned Sting, leading to Bret Hart crying foul and replacing Patrick as referee. But before the match, Hogan told Patrick not to make a fast count, instead making a regular count, and in effect making Hogan's pinfall on Sting look fair. Thus, Hart's interference made zero sense, and fans were left scratching their heads at the bizarre finish. WCW was forced to vacate the title, leading to a rematch at Super Brawl 8. But there you have it, guys, 15 dream matches that turned into nightmares. Do you guys agree with the list or not? Let us know in the comments down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.